Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of the Sean Sax Show. As you can tell, we have upgraded the studio here and now have two plants. We had one, and we now have two plants.
And we don't have stickers on either of my shoes today.
Ejector shoes, which is great. I don't think I do either. But we're moving in the direction I think that we need to. Next, we'll have a couple, I don't even know, we'll have some whiskey bottles.
We'll just keep shocking them.
Guns. This is shocking enough, for sure. Are you shocked that there's two plants?
And aloe this
these
time.
are both ridiculously fake.
This guy's real, though.
Not for food use, may poison food. Just in case you were...
I won't serve you soup out of that vase.
Good. Guys, welcome back to the show. First of all, thank you so much for the feedback on our first episode. It was really fun. It was really cool. We had a ton of messages. A ton of you share it. So thank you very much. Like, it was really, really, really cool, the feedback that we got.
Yeah, that's very cool.
From everybody. What was your biggest takeaway from everybody's feedback?
People really like to talk about boundaries or hear about boundaries.
Yeah.
That was cool. That was unexpected. But that was dope. Boundaries are cool.
Why? Why was that your biggest surprise? Was that your biggest surprise?
Well, I think it was a surprise because we didn't really think we were going to talk about boundaries. And then it got slid in there. And we just got a lot of feedback on boundaries. What's cool is because I think it gives people a perspective of how having them actually helps you thrive in your relationship. It's not a disconnection.
It's something that both you and I have learned personally in a major way, not only being together, you and I, but in past relationships and not having boundaries and understanding how powerful boundaries really are. But yeah, I think that's really cool that I'm just glad that people vibe with it, period.
Yeah.
End of story. Like, I don't know. Somebody asked us what our objective is with this. And my objective, and we talked about this a little bit, is this stretches me, right? And those of you that are listening to this, like, understand that it's one thing to, like, expose your life. It's one thing to, like, talk about your life, talk about your stuff as an individual. Then adding your significant other, your lover to the mix, like, and opening up that deal, like that conversation. It's scary, man. It really is. And for somebody that speaks from stage and talks to thousands of people, you'd think that, oh, dude, there's nothing that kind of freaks you out or scares you. But like stuff like that, like this kind of conversation, this kind of reality of opening up our world is definitely intimidating.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think people might not know this. Like, this is not scripted. We're just like on the fly. So that's a whole new level of vulnerability because we're rolling and we're asking questions and we're throwing it out there.
And we might disagree.
Which
we probably will.
Of course we will. We're two different people with two different lives. Yeah. Of course there will be disagreements, as there should be. Like, we're not, that's not, you don't grow without a little bit of
This is a special episode, though. This is a really special episode, and here's why. Okay, are you sitting down? Are you ready for this?
I'm excited.
Here's what's cool about this is when you watch this, as we sit right now, we're engaged, and we are actually getting married on Sunday. Today's Thursday, so we're recording this on Thursday. So by the time you guys watch this, we'll release this next Tuesday. We will be married. So this will be our last podcast that we do, which is really our second podcast that we're doing as a engaged couple, as a single, not really single, but like pre-married. Us not being married. So we were talking about that. We're like, what do we want to talk about today? And how do we want to talk about the marriage game? And that's something that came up the last couple of days as we've been talking about this episode is why we're getting married. Why we want to get married, why we are getting married, the fears and the reservations around getting married. And this is like, to me, this is what's cool about this episode and what's cool about this today is this is kind of the culmination, right? Like, you don't date to date forever. You don't date. Well, some do, and some truly are, and that's totally fine. No judgment here. If you want to be the eternal dater and want to date a different person every year for the next 50 years, totally cool. No judgment here. But I believe that most people have the intention in dating to create a relationship. Now, whether that's ending up in a traditional marriage, whether that's ending up in a civil union of some sort. I don't know. I'm not here to judge like whether or not you go to the courthouse or you get a shaman or whatever. But like, I truly believe that I dated with the intention of creating a relationship, of creating a union, of building something, right?
Yeah.
I can't say that for all of my dating career. Can you call it a career? I can't say that for all my dating career.
It's basically a career.
I think that a lot of the time that I dated, I did it to numb pain, to fill voids that I didn't want to look at. For me, this is just me speaking personally.
Yeah.
But I know that deep down, I wanted to create a unity, and I wanted to create a union, and I wanted a family. I wanted to get married again. I enjoy marriage. I have been single for 9 years, divorced, I should say, for 9 years since my first marriage. And that obviously was always the goal and not necessarily what I was experiencing and moving towards that for a lot of that time. But being in this place now where literally what is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? So 3 days.
Babe,
is that
3
crazy?
days.
It's crazy. In 3 days, we're getting married. I asked my son the other day, my oldest boy, Will, I was like, did you think I'd get remarried? And he's like, I thought you would. And I said, did you think I was going to get married to Saxony? And he's like, I wasn't sure. He's like, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And it's just cool because the conversations with my kids, and I know you've had the conversation with your kids, have been really, really, really amazing around them watching me date and the experiences, especially with my daughter, who is 18 years old. She and I are very, very connected, and she would vibe. She could tell, when I'm dating somebody or hanging out with somebody where it's like, Dad, what are you doing? It's almost like that. She never really said it, but she said it plenty fine with her. Like, what are you doing, Dad? Like, what is this? You know what I mean? And her having the connection now with you is obviously super, super, super big and super important. But what we want to talk about, and I think what we'll try to get to without you crying the entire time and getting emotional.
I put on my tough girl pants.
Is why we're choosing to get married.
Yeah.
Like what we experienced to get to this point in dating, what some of our fears. I know that you have a couple questions that you wanna cover, and some people that asked some questions about
I've jotted them down.
This, but here the cool part is we are essentially eloping. It's going to be our family. That's it. Our kids.
Yeah.
My mom just flew in today. Like, we're not inviting friends, which has been really weird because we've been talking to friends for like the last couple of weeks, and they'll be like, "Oh, what are you guys doing this weekend?" or whatever. We're like, "We're going to be out of town." And one time I kind of blew it. We were sitting with friends, and I'm like, "Oh, I got to get this suit. I got to go get a suit." And they're like, "What for?" And we're kind of like, "Oh, well, we're going to elope." It's been weird, like talking to friends.
Which
They're
honestly,
like, by the way, you're not invited. We love you, and if we were inviting people, you would be coming. You'd be invited, but you're not coming because we're not inviting anybody. So
if anybody hangs out with us, we run everything's on the fly.
Yeah.
Nothing shocks anybody. So they're like, okay.
We've been engaged since October.
Beginning of October.
Beginning of October. November, December, January, February. So what, 4 months? 4.5 months.
Yeah.
And we're going down this weekend to Moab, which was an interesting story about that. As we went down to Moab last. When did we go? It was before
September. Is it September? October? Or
it was before we got engaged.
Yeah, like right before that, I think, right?
Yeah, and we had talked about how Moab would be a rad place to get married and all of these cool things and blah 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 and all this sort of stuff. And it just so happened that over the last couple months, it's come up more and more and more. Like, when are we getting married? When are we doing this? When are we doing this? And I contemplated doing it in Hawaii when we were in Hawaii over Christmas break, and didn't. And when we were coming home, I had texted you and said, because you're a numbers person, Saxony's all about the numbers and the astrology and all that shit. And I said 2/21/21. And instantly you were like, yes, like, let's do it. And I put that out into the universe, and was like, that's when we were doing it. And it's gotten closer and closer and closer. And
it's happening.
Here we are. So, but we're going down to Moab. We're eloping. We actually have a really dear friend, which we're going to tell that story probably on another episode, but a dear friend who we asked to marry us, who was not a minister, has never married anybody before. And God had told me that and told you that.
Yeah.
And when I said it to you, you were like, yep, that's the jam. That's the deal.
Yeah.
So we're literally going down this Sunday. We're eloping. We're getting married on a cliff, a bluff, whatever you want to call it.
They're calling it a cliff.
In one of my favorite places.
Yeah.
One of our places that we've been to a couple times and had some fun. And it's exciting. It's nerve-wracking, but at the same time, it's like, it's finally here. I joke about it, and I'm kind of serious, kind of not serious, but I'm like, can we just fucking get this over with, please? Like, can we just hurry up and do this? Like, I don't want to take away from the excitement and the pizzazz and the joy and the whole thing, but I'm like, dude, like, I just want to fucking...
We have a life to build, Sax. Let's get this shit rolling, girl.
Done with this shit, you know what I'm saying? But I'm excited. So what you had a couple questions that you wanted to talk about, because we get a lot of people ask about that. You know, somebody made a comment the other day, oh, Sean, if this is your queen, like, why don't you, marry her or whatever. And I didn't want to say anything, obviously, but I know that you had a couple...
Pump your brakes, dude.
You had a couple questions that you wanted to cover, but then also... Yeah. Some of these questions came from people that have been following us and asking about marriage and how do you know when the right time is and how do you make the decision? And some people have been engaged for years and years and years and years and years and never like pulled the trigger to get married. So you had a couple really good questions you wanted to talk about. What are they, babe?
Well, and the reason that I feel like it's really important, we love to engage with you guys. We love your questions and we want to do our best to cover that most of all of them that come across. But part of getting married for us was like, we've been married before and there's a lot of fears in that. And there's a lot of like, we have discussions about like the marketplace. We call it the marketplace in dating, like the marketplace. What are they like? Most people, you don't see most people committing. Like it's
we were talking
the
about
Bumble
that.
cycle is this. If I were to hop on Bumble right now, I would probably see the same people I saw years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily, we're not criticizing them. It's just that like, we want to talk about like why aren't people going? Like why aren't people going deeper and further and and that's a lot of what the show's built on.
Well, that goes back to what I was just saying. Like I truly believe if you're on Bumble, if you're dating, I truly believe deep down, especially if you've been divorced. If you've been divorced, it means you'd already been married once. You've been committed. You've been in a committed relationship, a monogamous relationship, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
You're not afraid of getting married because you've already done it. The real question is, and we talked about this, I don't even know how many times, but like, how many people do you know that are in the dating scene, that we've been in the dating scene for years, that have actually gotten married? I don't know very many at all of my single friends, of your single friends, of people that are in the single world that you're connected to on Instagram or Facebook. Really think about that. How many of them do you know, besides ones who got knocked up, like, because that's happened. How many of them do you really know that have been dating for an extended period of time, who have been divorced, that end up getting married or creating a new world and a new life and a new relationship? And I don't know very many at all, like at all. And one of the things that Sax and I have been talking about is why, because it's a very, very, I don't want to say addictive pattern, but it's a cyclical pattern. You see a lot of the same people saying the same thing. They get to a certain period where we've been dating for 6 months and, oh, this person is this, or this showed up, or that showed up, or he ran, or I ran, or they, whatever it is. And it's like the same thing happening over and over and over again. Right. And you did some of that. I did some of that.
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Because the truth is it's almost like if you look at it like in layers, like you can operate on a scale of 1 to 10, you can operate 1 to 3 really easily. You can just stay in that. This is good. Sex, people, dating, entertain me. Like that's not a horrible place to be. But if you really want that richness, that depth, you have to pass 3 and go further towards 10, right? And there's levels to this. And it is not, on the surface, in my opinion, it's very, very, very scary to look and trust and go deeper with an individual. And once life has given you reasons to feel pain that we then associate with love, which love is not painful. experiences were painful that we connected love to. And that's like what's a big part of why we do the show, why we have our relationship, why we in our coaching, like that's the nugget of goodness. It's getting to where you can almost disassociate from the pain of your past and be willing to do it again and again, because why the fuck not? Like, that's what life's about. And that's important to me. But for a long time, to answer your question, is I wasn't ready. I wasn't really to the point where I was like, I want to go, in your words, from good to great.
It's interesting because when you talk about that, what I have found, not only in my personal life, but in coaching and in talking to other single people, is that disassociation.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's hard as shit. Like, fellas, hear me. I understand very much, being a guy who's I've had everybody message me, dude, are you signing a prenup? Or are you doing this? Or once we got engaged, I had the prenup conversation with everybody, and this and the other. And, again, that's a different story for a different day. But I struggled with the stories and the patterns, much of what you're talking about. Yeah. And you were those stories and those patterns. As I dated other people, it always showed up. It was like they were the same. They would act the same. They would say the same thing as an ex who caused me a lot of pain, right? And you just attribute that and you connect those two things. And what I found is I never actually did work to overcome those things and realized that was on me. Yeah. And when we first started dating, I experienced a lot of this with you, and we had a lot of really, would you call them gnarly conversations, intense conversations? I
like the word intense because everything we do is intense.
Serious conversations. We had a lot of serious conversations around it, because I struggled with realizing that you were not my past. Yeah. You weren't the pain that I experienced. You weren't my ex. But that's a really, really, really easy thing to do, is to say, there's the red flag. See, you said the same thing that she said, or did the same thing that she did. Yeah. There it is. Same thing, game over, fuck this, you're just like everybody else. I did that a lot. Yeah. I did that frequently. And what I found is that those triggers and those things that I was dealing with, it was simply shit that I wasn't willing to overcome. It was stuff that I wasn't willing to look past. I mean, Jesus, if you were in a relationship for any period of time, right? There's places you go to. There's food that you eat. There's music that you listen to. There are songs that come on. There are movies. There are clothes, for Christ's sake, that your ex or this person wears. And all of a sudden, you're wearing boots. Well, she wore boots. Oh, shit. You're the same because you wore gold bougie boots and she had gold bougie boots. Fuck this shit. And the reality is,
you should be dating girls only that wear gold bougie boots anyways, because hello.
Yeah. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like, this is something that I have found that was really, really, really hard for me to overcome. Yeah. And it came getting to the place where we are now, where we're getting married in a couple of days. Even getting engaged was a huge, like, monumental fucking thing for me, right? Yeah. Because all of the stories, all of the things, and what I chose to do when those things came up, and we give advice for what we've done. This is what I did. As those things came up, I realized that you're not my ex. Yeah. You're not my past. You're not these things, right? And I was experiencing different things with you, which I didn't want to pay attention to, because I wanted to pay attention to the pain. I wanted to pay attention to the scarcity, right? Case in point, like when we shared on the first episode, I think we did, when I was driving home from the racetrack.
No, this was the first one we didn't air.
The one we didn't air. So here's a quick story.
Friends.
And this, I'm giving you an example of this real world example.
This is good. This is gold.
This was a turning point for me with you. And you know this. But to make a long story short, I was driving home from the racetrack one day, and I got a text message from you saying, I just got bombarded with a bunch of messages from such and such girl.
And screenshots.
And at the time, you and I had not discussed being exclusive. We didn't talk about where we were at. We were dating. We were hanging out. What I was doing, you were doing. We hadn't had that conversation yet. And there was a girl that was upset that I wasn't hanging out as much and going a different direction. And she got mad and knew who you were and knew that we were hanging out. and sent you a bunch of screenshots of messages and different things like this. Now, my past was experiencing, like, if you even made a comment on my social media, somehow I had something to do with you. If a female made a comment on my social media or liked a picture of mine, somehow I was sleeping with her or we went way back or whatever. Really, 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 again, not healthy shit. Yeah. But that was what my experience was. My experience was that. Yeah. And so when I get this message from you saying, so-and-so just texted me, I was like, there it is. Watch. She's going to blow the fuck up. You're a piece of shit. You're this, you're this, you're this. And it didn't happen. Yeah. And I'll
talk about why it didn't happen.
I want you to.
Yeah.
This truly was a turning point for me with you, because prior to that, there were a lot of triggers. There were a lot of things that I saw in the past. There were a lot of things that you would say or you would do, which brought me back to a remembrance of pain, of frustration.
Yeah.
And in that moment, when you sent me that, I was like, okay, are you good? I didn't really know what to do. And you said, yeah, this has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And I remember calling you as I'm driving home, and I'm like waiting for that explosion, that you're a piece of shit, you're this. And I'll never forget, you said to me on the phone, you're like, look, we haven't had a conversation about whether we're exclusive or not. Like, I've made a choice that I'm choosing not to date anybody else. Okay. And if you're dating other people, whatever, that's completely on you. And that really has nothing to do with me. Yeah. And me, I'm holding my phone like, yeah, right, dude. There's shit so full of shit. Wait, all right, Sean, 10 minutes? 5 minutes? How long you giving her until she fucking blows up, calls you a piece of shit, says, I never want to see you again, right? Makes the accusations, the whole thing. And it didn't happen. And I said to him, like, okay, well, do you want to talk about this? And you said, no, this really has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And I said, well, cool, come over and let's have some dinner and whatever. Yeah. That moment for me helped me rewrite probably one of the biggest hurdles or stories that I was experiencing in relationships. Yeah. I had a shit ton of fear around that, a lot of experience with triggers and frustration with, being in that reality of being judged and having this happen and that happen, a lot of assumptions and a lot of accusations and stuff like that. That helped me rewrite the entire game of saying, well, okay, perhaps she is different. Yeah. And this sounds really simplistic, but if you're listening to this and you're a dude, it's all like me, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. Yep. You know exactly what I'm talking about. If you've been divorced, if you've been through pain, if you've been lied to, cheated on, deceived, any of that shit, and you've clammed up and you've protected yourself, if you will, really just shut off to the emotional connection with the woman, you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. Yeah. That reality of saying, well, this is what's going to happen, because it happens so many times where it's been there. It's so fucking easy to do that. Yeah. And it's so easy to say that. And when you said that to me, like, in my mind, I didn't believe you. I didn't want to believe you. Like, this is what I had been accustomed to, and this is what the world had been up to this point with my dating and my love life.
Your ego wanted to be validated. Correct. That what your past was fact. Right. And those behaviors are facts. And that's what's rad is when you get these, because we will all experience this, especially if we are pursuing growth in our lives and we are wanting better relationships. You will see these types of things modeled, and you have to choose to believe them when they're presented to you. And then that's
in that moment, I chose. Yeah. And I will say this as an ego guy, as somebody who struggles with my own, insecurities and things like that. I chose. It was like, okay, I'm going to choose to believe that she is completely different than everything that I know. Yeah. I'm going to choose to believe that she is different than the things that I had felt, the pain that I had experienced. And that's a big thing. Like, dudes listening to this right now know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about, because when you choose that, and I chose to rewrite that story, that created not only a bond with you and I and a connection, but it opened me up to being a lot more vulnerable than I had been. Yeah. And we had conversations around that. Yeah. That I remember very specifically, those next couple of days, you and I talked in great lengths about my fear around this and about my social media and things being judged. And you talked about, choosing to be in a relationship and stop dating other people. And we talked about what that was to get off that fence,
right?
Which was something that neither you and I had really done up to that point. We had other people and other doors and other things and played at that 3%.
Yeah.
And that moment was like our turning point, in my opinion, of going, okay, let's take it to 7. Like,
well, and I'd like to rewind a little bit to when I decided to go all in. I don't think we've covered that with our amazing people and our amazing listeners. Is about a month prior to this, I had sat with myself and I realized like I have a pretty strong connection with my intuition, with God, with, you know, where I'm going, because that's how I build my life. And I really had to come into Jesus that was like, I don't want to dilute my energy into other people, because I already knew that my commitment was to you. Now, that didn't come with, I needed your commitment to me. And that might be hard for people to wrap their heads around, because talk about a really vulnerable space of like, I'm going to take myself off the market. I'm just going to hang out with you. I'm just going to do you in all facets. That's right. But that's what I was honoring, my truth. That was like, I didn't want to go and spend Saturdays with some other person or pursue whatever other people out there, knowing my heart was with you. And I was, that's honoring me. That had really nothing to do with you. That was, I wanted that for me. And so when I told you that, I was like, I'm all in with you. I'm not going to see anybody else. And you were like, that's cool. Let's talk. What do you want for dinner?
Yeah.
You know, and that's
tacos.
okay. And I didn't like, part of truly showing up is I didn't need his reassurance. I didn't need his reinforcement. I didn't need his buy-in, because I'm good with me. And that was a decision I made for me. So when this came into our space, this person, I knew that this individual that was sending me these messages and whatnot, like when people are in a great deal of pain, they want to get rid of it. So they give it to someone else. And this person was giving me what she was in pain over. And my response to it was very loving. I gave her something to think about. And then I left it at that. And I gave it to you also as something to think about. Like, this is coming into my space. Here you go. It's yours back. And I think there's a lot of really cool parts to it, because I don't really like those things coming into my space. And I didn't have to go to you and be like, if this kind of shit comes flying at me, we are not doing this. There was no ultimatums, but you're a smart enough man to look at me and be like, I don't think she's going to do this again. So maybe even subconsciously, you've had to think about like, okay, how do I want to reevaluate the situation? But it was a blessing, and it was really good for me as well, because I got to practice really honoring again myself. And I knew I am a human with a massive heart. Like this did not pass me without, like, of course it like was awkward and I didn't want to read what was written. But at the same time, like me having feelings around like you not being exclusive with me didn't give me permission in any regard to come at you, because you never once deceived me. You never once said, oh, you know, like, you're my girl, all is good. And then this came up, like, never. So all I had to do is I got to handle it, like my feelings around it myself. And then it was really dope for both of us.
So for me, that experience rewrote the game. Mm-hmm. And it showed me, and I truly believe that one person or the other, someone's going to show up and do something. And then it's on the other person to either acknowledge it, see it, experience it, truly want it, truly want something different, and seeing that and go, oh shit. Yeah. And I think that vice versa, that I didn't run, you didn't run. Yeah. I wasn't full of shit. You weren't full of shit. You didn't spew negativity bullshit. I wasn't like, well, let me make all these excuses and blah, 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 blah. I was like, yo, here's the deal. Yeah. This is what it is.
And you were really, really good with being like, hey, I'm here. Like, you want to talk about this? Like, what questions do you want answered? Like, you held a safe space, knowing that you cared about me, knowing that this was probably awkward for me. And you didn't get defensive. You didn't try to fight me. You didn't try to rationalize. You were just like, hey, You know,
This is what it is.
this is what it is.
Let's talk.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And that built trust with me too, is that showed me that when hard things happen or uncomfortable things happen, like you didn't go to like have to build a defense like, hey, well, it was this reason and this reason and this. It was, you were just like, hey, you just showed up for me emotionally, knowing that like you were going to be there for me and you were going to be real with me and you were going to be empathetic, like knowing that there was no guilt. There was no,
that was
guilty.
the interesting. Yeah. I didn't, and I want the lesson, I want there to be a takeaway from this for people. And I, obviously if they're listening, they're probably either like, I get that, or Sean, you're a piece of shit, or Saxony, you're crazy, or whatever. But I didn't have that desire to try and create a different reality. Lie, if you will. Call it lying. Just call it fucking lying. I didn't have a desire. That was like, I wanted to show up for you, like in a way that it was like, I don't need to defend this. I don't want to defend this. Naturally, the carnal man is like, oh, well, it wasn't really this, or it wasn't really that. It was like, yo, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And showing up in a way where you knew that I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to be a total pussy and try and defend, or, you know, well, yeah, man, you should. And it was like, this is what it is. And I think for me, for guys listening, like, it's really easy to skirt this experience and be like, oh, well, it's not a big deal, because it showed me something. Yeah. And anybody who's out there who's trying to dating, wanting to build something, when these things show up, it's really fucking easy to be like, oh, just kidding, and playing it off. But when that shit shows up in your space, it's going to prick you. It's going to cause you to experience shit that's uncomfortable. It's going to make you look at yourself. It's going to make you look at your own jam, your own everything. Yeah. But if it shows up, believe it. Like, I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to pretend that you were full of shit because that was safe for me. I didn't want to believe it because it was safe for me. Quote unquote safe. I see now that it was the least safe, but I wanted to continue to be like, nah, dude, that ain't real. She's totally full of shit. She's playing me. She just wants to be with me. I guarantee you this fucking shit will come back in a month or 3 weeks, or we'll be out on a date, or I'll forget something and she'll use it against me. That's never happened. It's
never happened.
And I think that's something very, very, very powerful to take away from this, is understanding that if something different shows up in your space, you got to fucking look at it. Yeah. You not only have to look at it, you got to like experience it. And it's really easy to run away from something different. Yeah. It's really easy to stay in the comfort of, we're dating 6 months, here's how I feel, here's how you feel, and you just kind of keep the cycle going. But all of a sudden, somebody punches you in the face with a different reality, or says something different, or shows up differently, or holds space differently, and you're like, no, you're full of shit. You're I don't want to believe that. I don't want to like that, because that's vulnerable. Yeah. And I think truthfully, that's what keeps most people in the cycle, is number one, either not showing up differently, or number two, when somebody does show up differently, they don't believe them. Yeah. Oh, and that in and of itself causes
because then you have then your ego doesn't get that story anymore. Right. They don't get to repeat that. That is not their crutch. That is not their woe is me. Like, oh shit.
And
like,
my story had always been that I'm this larger than life figure, blah, 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 blah. You know, I get fucking whacked ass messages from random ass girls, literally girls, women around the world have been having relationships with me for 10 fucking years. It's really crazy. My story was like, that was the deal. That was the jam. That's what it was going to be. Yeah. But I knew that somewhere, someplace, there was going to be a human being that would just accept real words and would accept truth and would be able to be present and live the 4 agreements. And all of a sudden, here you were, and I'm like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I want to believe this, but I did. And I know that story, that experience rewrote a lot.
There was definitely a 2-part dance, is we both just had to keep stepping closer and closer together. And I mean, neither of us had to, but we chose to, and that is why we're getting married on Sunday. So back to questions, because we said we were going to ask a question, and then we went down the rabbit hole, which is what we do.
Which is fine.
Unapologetically
that's I think that's a great lesson. I hope people got something from
that. And one little thing I would like to add to that is, be the person you want to be with. Yeah. Like, if that were to, and this crossed my mind, is if I was in a situation and the roles were reversed, how would I want Sean to treat me? If that came to me, like, I don't want all that insanity. And so like I can't bring that then. And it's
Right.
like if you keep that perspective at all times, like model the behavior or be the person in which you want to be with.
Right.
And it's a really beautiful, comes up a lot in my coaching is like, show up the way you want someone to show up for you. And if you keep that mindset, you go far. Okay. I have a whole bunch of questions here.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
I feel like I should.
Mhm.
There's no particular order.
People listening to this, you got to see the antics. You got to watch this.
Because I talk with my hands. I'm a little animated.
Okay, go.
Okay. All right. Question 1.
Okay.
What are some reasons why you truly wanted to get married again? You've covered this a little.
Yeah.
Get down to like the little golden nuggets.
I love the institution of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And I'm not talking about the government approval of marriage, or I love the institution of it. I love the idea of it. I love the connectedness to it. I struggled with this when I got divorced.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck is marriage? Like the government gives me permission and you can be as committed without having a ring and you can be in a relationship without having this. And I've known people that have been in relationships for 6, 7, 8, 10 years that are living literally, you don't even know that they're not married. And then all of a sudden they go and get married. But like, I truly love, and I loved having a wife.
Yeah.
Like this is my wife. Right? Girlfriend, this, that, and the other. There's this ownership reality to me of marriage where this is mine, right? Not in a possessive way, not in some psycho controlling way, but like, this is my wife.
Yeah.
This is my family, mine. Like I built this, right? Yeah, you agreed and we both walked up and did the deal and the whole thing. But my mind changed a lot over the years in the sense that, what is marriage and fuck that. And, all the stories. I'm going to split everything. You're going to screw me over like she did, and this is and the whole thing. And it's like, no, I love the institution of family. Yeah. I love the institution of marriage. And for me, it's important. I struggle with the approval of government and all this other bullshit. We've talked about that. We can talk about that if you want. But like, I want you to know where I stand with you. And to me, I could talk about that with you, right? And we can both be on the same page and be like, we're committed, right? We're both committed. We're both in this deal and we're living this reality and building this relationship, whether you have the paper or don't have the paper. To me, getting married is an outward expression of an inward commitment.
I love that. That's so good.
To me, getting married is an outward experience of an inward feeling, devotion, and commitment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
And it's not.
You've never said that before.
I've said that before. You just don't listen.
Apparently I don't listen.
I've said that many times actually. Maybe you really should.
Well, it touched my heart again.
Because it's great.
I
Because it's
know.
fucking awesome. Because I say cool shit like that.
You always say cool shit.
It's true. No, but like to me, I wanted that, right? And I've been afraid of it. I've been reluctant to really dive into that reality. And I thought about it a ton. Like before asking you that, I'm like, yeah, we could just date and we could live together and we could build a life together. But there's always this lack of ownership for me, right? And in getting married, it's like now I own this reality. I own this experience. Yeah. I own this commitment. You know what I mean? And so marriage to me is literally that. It's an outward expression of how I feel on the inside. Yeah. Is it the end all be all? Does it change our DNA and change our dynamic? No. But to me, it's an outward expression. It's this experience that you got to read.
I hope y'all wrote that down.
Yeah, it's a good quote. You got the ring, you got the thing, but that experience it's almost like this. I can declare to God, and then I can declare to God with you in front of God, right? Like, and this might make sense to some people, and it might not make sense to some people. I get it. There's a lot of people that are hurt. There's a lot of people that are broken. There are a lot of people like, fuck marriage. I'm never getting married again. We'll just shack up and live this life. And there's always that exit plan. There's always that ability to like pull the chute and I'm out kind of a thing. And it doesn't. You could do that too, being married. You could do that being married. Like you could be like one day, you know what? Fuck you. I'm out. Here's divorce papers. Gone. Just as easily as you could if you weren't married. Right. marriage doesn't change the DNA or the commitment. It doesn't make me a different person. It doesn't make you a different person. To me, it's that declaration.
Yep.
It's a challenge, if you will, of saying I'm declaring in front of God, in front of you, how I feel on the inside.
Yeah.
And some people will question that. Some people say, well, if you really felt that way, you wouldn't need marriage. And if you were really loyal, dude, marriage doesn't make you a loyal person.
No.
If you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit with or without a ring,
Right.
with or without a piece of paper. Marriage does not make you like monogamous. It doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you not lie. It doesn't make you not cheat. Like it, to me, it's that declaration. And that's what I'm excited about is like that declaration.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially if you're a person of your word.
Yeah.
Like if you're a person of your word and you show up and you get married and you say your vows, like that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah.
If you're not a person of your word, you can get married and whatever all day long and it doesn't mean anything. But like as you, knowing you, like, yeah, there's
something about it too that I really do believe that there's an aspect of choosing too. Right. And this was important to you.
Right?
It's how I proposed.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. And I remember exactly what you said and how you said it.
Yeah.
And to me, the dynamic of getting married and the actual experience of marriage is choosing that person. Right. And I think people will try and debate this.
People try and debate everything you say.
I know, but here's why. Here's why. It is because it's a scary proposition, right?
Yeah.
Like when you really think about choosing someone like, oh, I can choose you and not have to do this. It's scary, right? We say that because we're afraid of that next level, that next step, right? Being married doesn't make me love you more. It doesn't make me love you less. It's not going to make our sex life better. It's not going to make this thing change. It changes a couple pieces of paper and a couple, your driver's license and the beneficiary of my life insurance. And that's about it. Like, what else is there? Like tangibly, like earthly and carnally. But to me, it's that choosing this person and declaring that reality. That's a process that, in my opinion, solidifies that.
Right. And I'd like to, I know this is my question for you, but part of what I would add too is our kids. Like when you have 5 kids and we're living together, we can play house, we can do all these things, but like I take it very personally, and it's very important and dear to my heart of how we show up in our children's eyes, like because we are raising them to become significantly beautiful and amazing human beings. It's like that's what we want for them, and part of modeling commitment sets a precedence for their life and how they perceive the world. Right. And of course, they can have different opinions than us in their own lives when they get married or don't get married or whatever. Who knows, with this generation, we might not have a lot of marriage. I don't know, but to me, it's important for me to show up and say, I love your dad so much. I love you guys so much. Like we're taking this to a level where we're not playing house. Like I'm not just, it almost gives a level of like security to a child of knowing that like we've bonded our families. And that's super, super important to me. My step parents were very, very, very significant in my life growing up. I'm grateful for them. And yeah, those little nuggets. You want another one? I'm going to throw you a curveball.
Okay.
How about, why was giving you and I a second round? Because we broke up, took about a 6-month hiatus, got back together. Why was a second round important to you? And what advice would you offer listeners considering the same?
Well, our story on that, I don't know if we talked about that in the last episode. A little bit, but like Saxy and I dated for a little bit, and then she broke up with me, told me to piss off, and we didn't see each other for about 6 months, give or take a little bit. And I never really wrote her off. We didn't really communicate a whole lot. And a random message here or there, kind of
peeked over at Instagram accounts,
shit, but like we never really. I mean, we didn't. Yeah, you dumped me, and we didn't go out or date or do anything for 6+ months. the thing for me that is really cool about our relationship, and I think our dynamic, is that we both got to a place where we realized our own shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think knowing that I am so far from perfect, so far from like this ideal, whatever, I started looking at relationships differently. It depends on the day. But I started looking at my own shit and saying, like, I can be the guy that I can be the, middle-aged rich fella and have a bunch of hot chicks and constantly be living in my own shit and never really committing, never overcoming my fears, never doing any of that stuff. And I started really understanding that. And I started really wrapping my head around the fact that like I have a lot of fucking scarcity. I have a lot of fears. I have a lot of trauma in my past that I have not wanted to look at and deal with. And as I started in that hiatus, like really diving into that, the connection with you changed. My seeing changed. How I saw things changed. How I perceived things and experienced things changed. And we didn't really connect or talk at all. So it wasn't like I was watching you do these things and I'd see your pretty pictures and and the whole thing. But like, there was really no communication on depth of where we were going, what we were doing, your journeys, my journeys.
We literally didn't talk.
None of that. It was me really diving into like me wanting something different for myself and being different from me. And I think that's what kind of came when we got back together. There was a lot of trepidation on both of our parts. Like, well, this is who you were 6 months ago, a year ago. This is, whatever. And I think instantly we both knew like, oh, there's something a little bit different here. And I truly believe that it boiled down to you got tired of playing the game. Yeah. I got tired of playing the game and both went, for lack of better words, balls deep on ourselves to really change shit. Not just by posting a fucking meme and saying, oh, dude, look, I read Joe Dispenza. I read whatever. Like, I'm saved. I've found Jesus. No, like really fucking diving into that. Yeah. That reality. And so for me, the quote unquote second time around, I had polarity. And to me, I love polarity. I talk about that a ton with Lions and the Sheep and coaching is you really don't appreciate the light until you spend some time in the dark. And you really can't have an understanding of the dark until you are not experiencing the light. Yeah. And for you and I to be kind of at a 2 when we were first hanging out, then all of a sudden we show back up and it's like a 5 and you're like, oh, okay, this is a little bit different. Not really there yet, but this is way more intriguing than before. Right. And to me, I know 100% that happened by you and I doing our own shit, dealing with our own work. And we dealt with it. Let me rephrase that. We built differently. We built how we felt we needed to build and did what we needed to do. But the progression of things, I think, was so big and so fast for both you and I over those 6 months in really diving in and wanting to change ourselves that when we kind of reconnected, it was like, whoa, this is different. Right. Like, this is way fucking different.
Well, and by, like you saying different, is we didn't go back.
Right.
We didn't go back to hanging out. We didn't go back. I mean, we reconnected in a new space. And that's a mental thing is like when I coach people, I'm like, don't go back to anything. Never. If you went back to it, it didn't work in the first place. So create a new. Yeah. Create a new. And I want to add to this too, is like we didn't do this with an ulterior motive of getting back together. Like that when we broke it off with each other, we went and did our own thing because we were working on ourselves. Yeah. We gave a fuck about ourselves. I wasn't in the back of my mind like, I hope Sean Whalen fucking sends me a cute little video in January and, whatever. It was literally like, I did not do anything in those 6 months with the idea of getting you back. And that's really important for people to think about is like, if you're not going to do it for yourself, then you're not doing it for the right reasons and it's not going to be effective. It's not going to work. So you didn't I mean, I don't believe you did. I believe that you went and did your thing because it's what you wanted to do and grow your life. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question for you. What fears do you have in getting married? What fears do you have in being married?
Fears of having being married. I honestly don't have a lot of fears in being married. But I have to think about that. Honestly, it's that. See, and I don't
Do
even
you
want to
really
say that
feel-
because I don't believe that the things that I could conjure up. I don't know that I don't believe that you and I would do that.
I don't have very many fears with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
have
Like, I'm
fears
like,
with me.
yeah.
And I shouldn't say really fears. Like, I'm giving you a little bit of a moment to think about your answer here, dear, while I'm answering it for you. Well, I'm answering it for me right now.
Let me put on my fear hat.
What's interesting is I've come to that realization that like I obviously know that I'm the common denominator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I want this to work, I make it work,
Yeah.
right? But my fear doesn't revolve around, are you going to lie to me? Are you going to cheat on me? Are we going to not, we're just going to like fizzle out, whatever.
We're not going to bomb sex anymore.
My reservation fear, if you will, is me not overcoming me.
Yeah.
Me staying stuck in patterns, me staying stuck in fear, me not fully being in tomorrow and then the next day and then the day after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, that takes you back to like, I'm not trying to project forward and I'm trying to be present, but like I don't have a ton of fear around marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It's more around my own insecurities, my own fears, my own like on those days that I'm like, I don't want to be married. Like I just want to fucking be by myself in the woods. Like, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that come into my mind frequently of like what? And what's funny is as I start to think about it, I'm like, I'll just tell you that I need to go be in the mountains for a day by myself. And you'll be like, okay.
Right?
Well, this shit, that solves that problem.
This takes me,
about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, this takes me back to the question that came up in August with our shaman. And you had said, like, I have a fear of that I'm going to burn it all down. And I looked at you like, how do you have the audacity to think that you can burn this down?
That was another one of those moments.
I'm like,
that was a racetrack moment.
Yeah.
For those that don't know the story, we journeyed together, and we were sitting after our journey with our shaman, and she asked, what our takeaways were, whatever our things that came up during our journey, and one of the things that came up was I had said that I'm afraid that I'm going to burn it down, and that was like. That was code for me saying like, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to get scared, get frustrated, be pissed off, and I'm going to bounce like I had been accustomed to doing. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying like, that was one of the things that came up for me. And you looked at me and you're like, how do you have the audacity to think that you have the power to burn this down? Yeah. And I was like, what the fuck did she say? This was a racetrack moment. This was like you're not going to burn this thing down. And I remember my shaman, she looks at me and she was like, oh, that escalated quickly. And I remember her looking and saying, Sean, I think you met your match. And I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. That was great. But secretly I was like, fuck, man. Like, is she for real about that? Because it's like next level shit.
And you know what? So I'll add to that because this is a good mirror to that is probably my biggest fear is that I give in to my fears or my insecurities of that I'm not strong enough to keep doing life and to not just like revert back into like, my old stories of either if they be abandonment issues or if they be, like, I'm just, I'm unlovable or whatever story. Mm-hmm. These aren't facts. These are just like stories. The trigger stories that come in and not being able to call my ass out and being like, no, because I'm good at just telling myself to shut the fuck up.
What are you most excited about? What excites you the most about being
married? I am the most excited. I too love the institution of marriage. I love the energy around being married. Like, I'm a pack animal. I use this phrase all the time. Like, I am a pack animal. Like, I thrive when we're in our space with our kids and with you. Like, that's like that yumminess of life. I feel like I've done the successful female entrepreneur, like single mom. I've done that whole story and it's great. Like, I didn't need this, but like, this is where my heart gets full and I love the energy around it. So I guess I'm most excited to like, I love being a a wife, and like you're my favorite person. So to be your wife, to put those two together, it's like I'm just I'm excited to live life with you. We have 5 amazing kids that like, and we have a loud house, and it's like the energy in that space just fills me. I'm like, I look forward to living that every day.
How did you get to this point? Let's like, I want you to share that with people. Like, how did you get, especially for women that are listening right now, like, how did you get to this point where not only you would say yes to getting married, because this, and I want to preface this by saying the Twitter patient is really easy.
Yeah.
It's really easy. I know a lot of people that have gotten engaged that then call off engagements, right? The Twitter patient of marriage and the idea of it and all of that is really simple, right? But to make it to the place where you're getting married and actually get married, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anybody who's single who's listening to this and understands this, shit. Anybody who's married understands that, like, if you're not 20 years old and you have no life experience and you're just falling in love for the first time, that shit's easy. But when you're 40, 45, 37 years old, you have kids, bills, things, life happening. This is fucking difficult.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really difficult. It's way easy to get ripped. It's way easy to build a business. Like, to move your mind and your heart and your soul from protection mode, fear, anger, frustration, bitterness, living at a 2 to yes, saying I do. That's a huge fucking step. A huge step.
So what got me here was like the racetrack moments. Honestly, what got me here was not the pretty parts, because you can have pretty parts with a lot of people. That like you said, the Twitter patient, that is easy. What really got me here and knowing that like I want to do life with you is that we've gone through some really, really uncomfortable growth experiences together. And individually. And what's beautiful is like, it is ugly. It's not pretty. It's not like we're like, I'll just hold your hand. Like we can war sometimes. It gets intense. But it's that we go through it and then we turn into each other. And we've done that enough times to where I know that like we're gonna do life together, and we're going to, you bring out the best in me by sometimes bringing out the worst out of me. You illuminate my darkness, or you create an experience or an opportunity for me to illuminate some of my darkness in that. And then when we come together in the end, because there's never been a time that it could have been war and we still will come together. And that, to me, that
we do war. Yeah. That's the interesting thing, is we do war. We don't.
And not in a toxic way. It's in a way that like we have such high expectations for ourselves and for each other that we are willing, we call it out and we do it, and we go through there and we don't run and we just keep. It's like, it gets heavy. Yeah. But like we want that for ourselves, because every time we do that, we level up. And we always
to me, we war different. And that's like the war, if you will, is different than the war that I've ever experienced. Because the war I experienced prior to this was for win or loss. Yeah. Like, you're right, I'm wrong, you win, I lose. It was pure ego, and it was unhealthy. Yeah. And it was the validation of, well, see, he said or she said, and it was just, it was no boundaries. Where the war with you is an expansion of me. It's like questioning me, not of, you're a piece of shit, you're wrong, I'm right. It's, hey, we got to go to this new level. Step the fuck up and go. And like, case in point, I love stories, I love experiences. 2 months ago, when you came in and you said, you know, for lack of better words, you were having an emotional day, I was having an emotional day, whatever. And you came and said, I don't know if I can do this. And
make sure people know that means like,
right.
Yeah, it's in a context of.
Right. I heard, I don't know if I can do this.
Relationship.
Right. And your thing was, I don't know if I can be the woman that you want me to be. Blah, blah, blah. You were in your insecurities. Totally. I was in my insecurities. Right. And I heard, I don't know if I can do this. And I fucking lost my shit. Not I wasn't screaming and yelling and throwing
No,
stuff.
there's
It
no,
was
there's no,
intense.
there's
we
no
say
violence.
war. We're not like killing each other
No,
and punching each other.
Yeah.
It's very much an internal strife of darkness of the whole thing. And that sent me into an insane place because, and I told you,
Yeah.
I will go down into hell with you any day, anytime. I will war with you on any level, on any topic. But if you ever say to me again that you might not want to do this, that you might quit this, that this might not be right, whatever, we're done. Like that will never come in my fucking space ever. And that was a huge thing for me because I wanted to bounce. I wanted to be like, see, fuck you, dude. You're going to quit. You're sitting on the fence just like everybody else. Da-da-da-da. And I was like, no, dude, drop the fucking hammer. Let her know where you're at. Speak truth, which I did, which was not roses and Skittles and kittens. It was really fucking intense. But that changed me in the sense that I made sure my communication with you was crystal fucking clear. You knew exactly where the boundaries were, and I was going to hold them no matter what. And then I obviously held space for you to have that experience of where you needed to be. And I didn't bounce. I didn't hold it against you. I didn't run. I wasn't angry. It was like, no. You know, and then your experience with that was...
Well, hearing that, like, because you even said, you were like, I didn't put a ring on the finger of a quitter.
Right.
And
I said some pretty powerful things.
But I sat back and I was like, hey, I'm one of the most competitive people you might ever meet. And so I was like, fuck no, I'm not a quitter. Damn right I'm not a quitter. But then I also sat there and I was like, the fact that you were like, this is a hard no for me. If you cross this, we're done. That meant so much to me because you modeled a boundary, which is self-love, saying that you don't get to, I won't take this from you or from anyone. And I got to sit back and be like, I got to then say, you're never going to say that. And it's not that I didn't want the relationship, but in any regard, I was not going to say that I can't do this. And you helped me expand by becoming a better, stronger woman in our relationship by not allowing me to go there. And that was dope for me. And this time I didn't think it was dope at all. But these are the moments that I'm like, this is why I want to do life with you, is you help. I've said it a million times, like, you're my greatest spiritual teacher. You help me level up by these moments.
Hard moments.
And
hard moments.
Easy is easy. Good is good.
Going from good to great is really difficult because good's really good. Superficial's really, really, really easy. Two, you brought this up, I keep referring to it, but like level 2 conversations are really, really simple. Yeah. You know, in moments like that, I will say, like, what's gotten me to want to be here and be in this place is rewriting the stories. Is instead of turning and walking away, running away, which is what, I don't care how alpha you think you are as a man, I don't care how badass you think you are, we are creatures that when we feel threatened, when we feel scared, you know, we either fight back or we bounce. Dude walks up, man to man, you know, we're throwing down kind of a deal because that's just that carnal. But when you talk about emotions, when you talk about feelings, when you talk about sensitivity, when you talk about hurt, I see this from dudes all the time when I post stuff about you and I on Facebook. Fuck that, dude. I'm never giving my heart to a woman.
All
Fuck
the time.
This bitch was this and this bitch did this. Fuck that. Good for you, but I ain't ever doing this. Hundreds of these comments from dudes that are like, fuck this. I'm never doing that. That's bullshit. You know, whatever. And that comes from a place of pain. It comes from a place of fear. Because deep down, like, those dudes are just fucking angry and they're pissed. And they don't want to face into the reality. They just want to continue to walk away. And I know that because I did that for a while. I did that for a period of time. And when you sit in that moment, and after that night, it was a pretty gnarly 2 days for me after that conversation that we had. Because my mind was, she's going to bounce, she's going to run, she's sitting on the fence, story. And I went into a really, really, really dark place. But it wasn't with you, it was with me. It was like all of those insecurities and fears my own shit coming to the surface and saying, okay, what are you going to do with it, bro? Like, you got two choices. Rewrite the story right here, right now, or just keep playing the same game that you're used to playing. And it was 2 days, right? And I was super clear with you. I'm like, I'm in a really fucking dark place.
Yeah.
I really don't want to talk to you. I really don't want to have anything to do with you at all.
Yeah.
And it wasn't negative or bad. And then, 2 days later, it finally hit me. I got it. I was like, all right, dude, this is the game you're going to play. This is the game you're signing up for.
Yeah.
And I remember texting you saying, this is exactly where I've been. This is exactly like what I've been over those 2 days.
Yep.
Here's where I went. Here's where my mind went. Here's where my heart went. Here's where my fears went. Here's what I learned. Here's where I am right now. Boom. And
that is why I said, yes, I want to spend the rest of this life with you. It's because these conversations are what I've always wanted in a marriage. I don't want the superficial, easy stuff. I want this.
Yeah.
And I encourage people to really, really, really try this on.
It's hard as shit, man.
It's super hard.
It really is.
It's like, it's a trip though. It's like, when you do it enough, you're like, there becomes some safety in it to some degree. Because you're like, I survived all the other times.
There's safety. But like, people that are listening to this, if I didn't, forget if you're listening to this. I don't give a shit. I'm going to back up. Like, I don't even care. I struggled with even believing this. I struggled believing that I could have communication with someone who didn't fight with me, who didn't yell at me, who didn't play small and act like a child, right? Yeah. And I know that I acted like a child for a lot of my life, and I played small, and I was a total freaking pussy with a lot of things. But like, I visioned this, right? And didn't believe it. And all of a sudden it shows up and it's like, whoa, this is different, right? Yeah. And when you have that and you change your world to be able to match that, that's the game for me. Is, it's difficult, it's scary, it's frustrating, it's hard. But at the same time, I know that, like, I already know the game of turning away. I've played that game. You played that game. Playing small. Yeah. Playing at a 2. Yeah. Conversations that are a 2.
It's so easy.
Physical, emotional is at a 2. Like, what do you have to do to get yourself to that place, right? And moving that direction as a man and turning into these things, it's scary because it's super vulnerable. Yeah. It's super, super, super vulnerable. But the flip side of vulnerability is the ultimate form of power. Yeah. Final thought. What would you say to people right now who are sitting on the fence in a relationship where they want to go all in? They don't know how. What would you say to those people? Besides saying just go all in.
I will, if you're in a relationship with someone and you want to go all in and you're on the fence and you don't know how to do it, I would get really, really, really clear with yourself. If this person is truly who you want to go all in with, if there's things that they don't match your value system and just the sex is good, like, take that into consideration before you truly go all in, knowing that. And just sit back and just know that, like, whatever you're doing, whatever action you're moving forward with, you're doing it for yourself. Like, be so good in honoring yourself that, like, you make decisions from your heart space. And if that person truly is someone you are willing to go through these processes with and learn and grow and go through, things that, you might get these uncomfortable things that come up, are you willing to hold that space and to go to those growth? And if you're not, then go do whatever. But I encourage you to love, like, to want it for you. Like, to want that. It's so rewarding to be like, damn, I'm strong. I'm brave. Like, I really love, like, I can love this. And it's like, it started with me. I don't know. I just want people to be brave as fuck. It's the trip. And they'll learn so much. We learn every day, you and I. Mm-hmm. What do you think? What would you say?
To what? That question?
Yeah.
Communication, man. That you helped me in communication a lot. Like, you were really, really, really direct. And that's something that I think is very, very, very important. Is, as a guy, I mean, I can play small and continue to play small. And if I find and with someone who won't stand up to me or won't challenge me, I'll just continue to find small and play with small. And I don't mean any disrespect to any human beings or anybody that I ever spent time with or whatever. I realized that was for a reason and for a purpose.
Sure.
But I realized too that as a man, I have a very powerful ability to just kind of chart my own course. And I will always have that. But in order for me to become better and to continue to grow, especially in a relationship, it takes a very, very, very strong woman to hold that space, to not just roll with every single punch, but to stand up and to challenge me, not in a negative way, but in a really, really, really powerful
Don't keep breaking up
way.
with you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's something that I think a lot of women, I want to answer this two ways. Number one, for the ladies listening to this, is as a guy, as a man, it was very easy for me to find people that just wanted to hang out with me and roll with me because I was fun. They never really challenged me. They would go into any conversation I wanted to go into and would, in essence, yes man me all day long. That's really simple.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women probably do that because they're afraid of standing up, or they're afraid of leveling up themselves and holding themselves to a higher standard, because what if that turns guys off? Or what if that pushes guys away? Or what if a guy thinks that I'm a total freaking bitch or whatever? And the truth is, like, you're going to find out really fast as a woman, the MO of a guy when you hold yourself to that standard. And I'm not just talking about saying, I'm not going to have sex with you until you marry me kind of a thing. I'm talking about saying, like, this is who the fuck I am and this is what I want. And that's something you were round two, you were crystal fucking clear on. You didn't play hanky-panky patty cake. You were like, yo, this is what I want. If you want to pursue something with me, then let's date. But if you're just here to play around and for me to just be, a fuck buddy, I'm not into that game.
Yeah.
And you were really, really clear with that. And you were very, very straightforward with your communication. And I think that's huge because I'd never really had that before. I'd had lots of disagreements and arguments and challenges in that way. But having you be very, very clear with who you were and are and what you want helped me see something different with you. It challenged me. There was a lot of times I wanted to tell you to fuck off. There was a lot of times we were like when we struggled with dating, when like I would say, oh yeah, let's go out this night, and then I'd change plans or whatever. You're like, no, motherfucker, look, I'm changing my schedule to hang out with you. So you either honor your word or fuck off. There were a couple of times where you said that to me where I'm like, dude, it's just a fucking date. I mean, come on, man, it's no big deal. And I didn't get it. Yeah. And by you holding that space, but you being really clear with your communication and then backing it up with your actions, showed me that I can trust you to hold that space. Yeah. And if you're a dude listening to this and understanding that it's really, really easy, if you're a confident fella and you're doing your thing, to find people that will play small with you, that will travel the world, that will go do this, that will go do that. But in order for you to grow as a man, in order for you to grow as a patriarch, in order for you to grow as a business leader, as a father, my true belief is that having that woman who challenges you to be a man of your word, to honor your commitments, to pushing you into greater spaces, but then also holding space for you when you do have the insecurities. Yep. And you're very, very, very good at those things. You're very good at being the place that's safe for me, but also being like, yo, like we gotta go. We gotta do this. Like, let's go. And making things happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you look at Sean Sax 1.0, that was what I didn't do. And that's why when we got back together, knowing, and this was just a takeaway for myself, is I projected a lot on you that you did this, you flaked on this, and it frustrated me, but I never told you. And that was, I could like, talk some schmack around it to my girlfriends and be like, oh, he's just a jerk, whatever. But the truth is I wasn't telling you. And so when we got back together, we reconnected, moving forward. That was a big thing for me, is I knew that if we were going to work, I had to speak that truth. Yeah. And I had to just be straight up, because I knew it was going to take me down. And what was I going to do? I was going to break up with you. Like, and I didn't want to have that part of my life. So that was I love that. That's one of our big reconnections and things that have strengthened us. I had to figure that out for myself.
Marriage is a beautiful thing, man. I really do. I really do honor it. I believe in it.
Yeah.
To those of you that have been married for years and years and years, that make it work, that continue to make it work, good for you.
I think it's amazing.
I'm grateful that I had a marriage that didn't work. I'm grateful that I had a marriage that I didn't know what I was doing, that I didn't push through, and that I did end. I'm grateful for that. You know, I mean, the pain and the frustration is what's driven me to excellence. It's what's driven me to something new. It's what's driven me to something bigger. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Had you not had your experiences and me, my experiences, and the universe connecting us, we wouldn't be here in this place and time, right?
Right.
But I really am grateful for like all of those experiences because it brought us here.
Absolutely.
And I think what's cool is knowing that we dated and we went through what we went through for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if you're listening to this right now and you're struggling with this idea of marriage, this idea of connection, this idea of next level, you know, I truly believe marriage is next level. It takes a lot of fucking commitment. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of transparency. It takes a lot of vulnerability. It takes a lot of radical fucking honesty to make a marriage
especially
work.
At middle age.
Especially with having a history and a past and having pain and frustration and depression and all kids and all of this other stuff.
Yeah.
It's gangster level shit. It's really, really, really difficult to do, but that's what makes it dope. Like the difficult workouts are what make you yoked. Yeah. The difficult building a business, you know, and overcoming hurdles is what helps you build wealth. You know what I mean? And I think that that at the end of the day, for me, like I wanted to be married again, and I stood in my own way for a lot of it, and it wasn't until I really started like just understanding that I had to change the game that I got to this place. You know what I'm saying?
I sure.
So you're welcome.
I love your
you're
face.
Welcome. You're welcome.
I sure like you.
All right, my friends. We can talk lots more about this, but we have a ton of shit to do, to be really candid. Like we gotta fucking
We're leaving for Moab tomorrow.
I haven't packed. I don't even know what the hell I'm wearing.
We have to get the razors all put together because we're gonna
rally. It's gonna be really fun. It's gonna be really cool. But this will literally be our last podcast as a non-married couple. The next one that we do next week will be married, which will be really cool.
Shacked up, babe.
By the way, I got a prenup that I need you to sign.
Is it 50 pages long?
It's so funny. People keep asking me about that. I mean, hey, you want half my shit? Here, take it.
What if you're gonna try and take half my shit?
Oh, yeah, that's true. You got some good shit.
I got some good shit.
I want half of your shit. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got some value out of this, please comment. Please like it. Wherever you're listening to this, please share with your friends. And we'll continue to get deeper and deeper and deeper into our relationship and into the things that we're learning and things that we're doing.
And our set will continue to evolve.
We'll have 3 plants next week, maybe.
We have 3.
Oh.
I don't think we need 4. Things are good in odd numbers. Well, plants are.
Make a note. We need guns next week and some other shit. All right, guys. We love you. Take care. Thanks. Bye. Mwah.